Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fertility TV. I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, the fertility expert, and I want to first and foremost thank you for joining me and tuning in as always. And then second, more importantly, I always want to welcome my guest, Robin Nielsen, today. We are going to be talking all about hormone balance and PCOS. Robin is an expert in this field, which is why I'm bringing her to all of you. So Robin, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Marc. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, Robin and I met, we're both part of a group of healthcare experts, and we met about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought bringing Robin would be a great addition to my YouTube channel and to educate all of you. Robin, will you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into this?
Absolutely. So, you know, your mess is your message. So I had a lot of, mess, right? A lot of health mess starting when I was a teenager. And of course, you don't really realize that a lot of your symptoms aren't normal because they're common, right? So acne is common. And, you certainly don't talk about the fact that you're not having a bowel movement every day. I mean, I had no idea that, constipation was an issue for me, right?
Yeah.
And and then I just had sort of this low-grade inflammation now looking back where, I could gain 5 pounds in a day and then I'd have to figure out how to lose it, right? In a day, of course, was my thing. And, I had two brothers. I have two brothers and my dad, and they were always sort of my gauge as to whether I was getting too fat or not. They would always tell me, right? And so just sort of these constant challenges. And of course, as women, we learn to undereat and over-exercise. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big factor in, how my health sort of continued to decline. So, that was sort of the mode that I was in, that I learned. And so when I was in my early 20s, I had arthritic symptoms in my hands. I had constant, persistent acne on my face, my chest, and my back. I had digestive problems. I was constantly irritable. And I had these huge mood swings. And, never mind that I didn't eat breakfast because I thought that would just make me fatter. Like I just had no concept of how to take care of myself. I just had these internal preconceived notions that just made my health, worse. So I think I was driving home one day from my busy life, and I grabbed that roll of fat over my pants, and I said, "I've had enough." Right? I think that at some point you have to get mad. You have to get mad and say, "I'm just not taking this anymore." So I started, that was sort of my shot in the arm to make something happen for myself. So I still didn't know what to do, but I eliminated wheat from my diet. And I only did it because if you think about it, we have wheat for every meal of the day. It was my favorite thing. Like I knew how to bake when I got married. I had no idea how to cook.
Right.
I could make cookies, chocolate cake, brownies, no recipe needed, right? But cook a meal? No clue. I didn't even know how to boil water. I mean, my mom was not kidding when she told my husband to be that I didn't know how to boil water. She was right, but it was also her fault because she wouldn't let me in the kitchen unless I were baking, right? She said, "Oh, you'll have plenty of time to do that later." So that's what happened. So basically, I thought because for breakfast you have wheat, right? You have toast, or you have pastries, or you have, French toast or pancakes or cereal or whatever it is, it's wheat. And then for lunch you have a sandwich, right? And then for dinner you have, we always had rolls. That was our thing. It wasn't pasta so much, but always had a dinner roll. So I thought, well, I'm just going to get rid of the wheat and see what happens. And then, I think I did Nutrisystems and all this other junk. But anyway, just getting rid of the wheat had profound impacts on my health. And then there was like this aha moment that, oh, wow, it matters, like what I do. And then my father's endocrinologist, really like, she's the reason that I got into this field, because she was a pioneer in healing folks from diabetes, basically. And so she was integrative well before her time, at least 20 years ago, she started this. And so she was able to not only, get people off their insulin, but she was able to reverse diabetes. She was able to, we're talking type 2. I think she had some success with type 1 as well. But then it became like this anti-aging program, because she realized that not only, improved their insulin sensitivity, but, they started losing weight, their skin improved, their wrinkles started going away, they had more energy, their, risk for heart disease started to decline. So all these really cool things were happening when she learned how to help people with their diabetes. And it wasn't a population that she ever wanted, but she was given that population out of medical school. And she thought, well, gosh, their lives are just going to get worse and worse, right? There was the American Diabetic Association's diet didn't work, right? People just got worse. They never got better. So she just said, let's start all over, go home and eat whatever you want, keep track of your blood sugar, and let's make a new diet.
Awesome.
And so that's what they did. And she came up with this whole program around it that, incorporated all of the lifestyle habits that support health and well-being. Go figure. Right. So anyway, she became a huge mentor of mine. She's written a few books and because she had all these case studies in there, and each one was me, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh, that person had adrenal fatigue. How did she heal that, right? And then that person had acne. How did she heal that? And that person, gained weight. How did she heal that? So it's like everything was me, and so I just got sucked in.
That's awesome. And then from there, that really trajectored you to create the kind of programs and support that you've have now for women?
Absolutely. I mean, that was my whole driving force for creating the 5-element system, for creating all of my programs. I think that, when we take good care of ourselves and really learn what that is for us, because I think it's different for every woman. As you know, in your practice, you kind of have to look at what's going on for the person and then, direct them. There are a lot of similarities, as to what's going on, but every woman is unique. Every person is unique. And so we all need, that somewhat unique approach.
Absolutely. I think it's really an important piece of kind of how we work with patients. So I'm always happy to hear that when others say the same thing. And, most of us get into our specialty because of our own health journeys and complications, as you said in the beginning, our messes. So your 5-element system, and we're going to get into it in just a minute, but I think this is a nice segue into like the meat of what we want to talk about today, which is the top 10 hormone deal breakers and then the 9 secrets to hormone balance. I guess if we start with the top 10, where do we go from there? What's number 1 and where do women go?
Okay, that's such a great question. So I may have to put on my glasses here.
It's okay.
Top 10. But let's just, let me just pull that up real quick. And I want to start with the diet, right? Because the diet is really, it's super important to figure out what diet is best for you, because food is truly medicine. I became a nutritionist because it doesn't matter, what type of healthcare practice you have, food is number one.
Yep.
Right? It's just number one. So
hands down, for me, whenever I get an email or a Facebook message or my patients say, where do I start? I always say it has to be with food. It might not be where you end, but you have to start there.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I think that we resist that the most.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to change.
It's so hard. And that's why I really feel that you have to get mad, because you have to really want that change.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I mean, and I still have shoulder problems. Like that's kind of my big kryptonite for some reason. And I still find myself like going for foods that I know aren't supporting me sometimes, and I'm like, what is that about? I know that might aggravate it, but I still do it. So
Yeah.
I totally understand. That's why I was the baker, right? Because I couldn't stop eating those delicious baked goods, even though later on I found out they were killing me. Okay, so the top 10 things. So food, and not only what you eat, but when you eat is really important. So that's like the number one hormone deal breaker. It's super cool. I'd love to go into these deeper, but we're going to do that. We do that in the program, right?
Yeah.
Number two is poor sleep. So I think sleep is like the elixir of health. So I absolutely think that sleep is incredibly healing. You can become so much more insulin sensitive just by getting a good night's sleep. You're happier, your moods are better, your inflammation decreases. And we know that with symptoms of hormone imbalance, inflammation is just always there. So if you get a really good night's sleep, your inflammation just drops right down. And then nutrient deficiencies, losing the hair on your head, you got to think, okay, what nutrients am I missing here? Right? So you want to think iron and zinc and, really start taking a look at why are your little energy powerhouses in your cells, your mitochondria, why are they not functioning optimally? Like what's keeping them stuck that makes your hair fall out, right? And why are you growing facial hair? And what's going on with the acne? And I figured out that I really needed a lot of adrenal support. I really needed my B vitamins, right? That was sort of keeping my acne stuck, huge amounts of zinc, things like that. So nutrient deficiencies are critical because nutrients actually run all of the functions of our body.
Yep. Awesome. And in the program, or do you guide patients in terms of determining how how to determine where their nutrient levels are at?
Absolutely. So we offer, I'm really big on testing. So that's actually one of the 9 secrets. And so way back when I first got into this, I'm sure Datis Karazian.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
So I went to his blood chem course and I just fell in love with testing to figure out what those deal breakers are. And I think he called them, health deal breakers at the time. And that's how I came up with the hormone deal breakers. Like, what is it that is keeping you stuck? And it's so cool. So, you and I look at blood work and testing so much differently.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not looking for disease. In fact, I could care less about that. I'm looking for systems and those are the hormone deal breakers, right? The chronic infections, the anemias, that inflammation, the blood sugar issues, the insulin resistance, right? So we're looking at, fatty liver is super common, right? And if you have fatty liver, your liver's just stuck.
Yep.
Right. So you've got to really do a lot to support liver function. So that's what we're looking at when we look at tests. So we offer testing, very comprehensive testing for, really low pricing. So, Western medicine used to do this great testing.
Yeah.
And these are just like basic panels that used to be run, and they're not run anymore because insurance won't pay for them unless you have some disease code that allows the doctor to order them. Mm-hmm. So it's really, I cannot believe in women with PCOS that they don't test for fasting insulin.
Right, they never do.
Right, they don't test for fasting insulin. They don't run HSCRP. They don't run hemoglobin A1C most of the time. They don't suggest how to accurately do blood work. It's like, don't eat or drink anything before your blood work. Well, if you don't drink anything, you're going to be super dehydrated. So, and then that's going to throw off some other markers. So I love lab testing. Like I love the Dutch test. So those things really help us to fine tune your protocol. We kind of all start in one place, and then teach you how to figure out what food works for you. We give you amazing tips on how to eat, right? The timing of meals, why to do what when. I love, even for sleep, you have to eat your way to better sleep. Like it And it's crazy. Like, who would have thought that food, what you ate during the day and when you ate, impacted your sleep?
Yeah, people don't put those things together, but they're very important.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So poor adrenal or thyroid function. So we know that, if we have all these hormone imbalances, we've got some thyroid issues going on as well. And it can be a chicken or the egg thing, right? Sometimes we start with hypothyroidism. It's very common in women. But sometimes we have hypothyroidism because our thyroid has to slow down if we're sick, right?
Yeah.
I heard one doctor speak about the hibernating bear. And I loved that analogy because when a bear hibernates, like their thyroid slows their whole metabolism down to the lowest place it can go so the bear can survive the winter.
Right.
And so that means that it's burning very few calories. It's just being there for however long until, food comes back and the bear can come out of its cave and eat again. And that's what happens with us if we don't have the right nutrients, right? If we don't eat well, if we don't get enough sleep, our thyroid says, whoa, 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 I got to slow down here because this person isn't going to survive otherwise.
Yep. I like that. That's a nice way to put it.
So when you start taking care of yourself in a way that better supports you, and I completely understand the fact that we just don't know what we don't know. So there's never any shame or guilt or blame, because I've done plenty of that in my life. And it's just, when you're ready, and you seek out the information. So I think that's so cool. So when you start to take care of yourself in a way that supports you better, now all of a sudden your thyroid says, oh, okay, right? I've got, I can step this up a bit. So now your metabolism starts to improve, your thyroid starts to function a little bit more optimally. So it's not always a gland problem, right? It's a whole body problem.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the bigger pieces that patients miss out is they're really kind of compartmentalize their health into these either little systems or glands or whatever they're doing, as opposed to looking at the bigger picture like this.
Exactly. Well, we've been taught to do that, right? Because there's the gastroenterologist,
right, the specialist, yeah,
the ENT, right? So we think of all our bodies in these little pieces and bits and pieces when it's really just all one entity, right? Our mind is actually connected to our body. It's not two separate things, although we as humans do have the ability to come up here somewhere. And then toxins. So toxins tend to be one of those stealth hormone deal breakers that we just aren't really aware of, but can have just incredible impacts on our health. And, that's when you start looking at, fatty liver and especially women with hormone imbalance, constant hormone imbalance issues. We really like to store our toxins.
Yeah.
So we get something called toxin overload and our body just can't process them anymore. And they start landing on our hormone receptor sites, our thyroid receptor sites, estrogen receptor sites. They just completely mess up our communication system. And so, gosh, that's probably, again, all of these are such huge hormone deal breakers. Toxins are crazy bad. And I interviewed Dr. Joe Pizzorno recently, and he's a researcher, right? And he was just correlating one toxin after another to hormone imbalance and insulin resistance. Like, it is one of the major factors. And, they're called obesogens for a reason, right? They make us fat. And there are a ton of studies on insulin resistance and toxins. So, that's one of the things that we take a look at. We do a cleanse or a detox at least once a year. More is often. We, take detox questionnaires. We want to know, right? Even in your skincare products, toxins are everywhere. And then anemias, right? So B12, a lot of women are prescribed metformin, to manage their insulin resistance or their insulin sensitivity, their blood sugar, and metformin really can deplete B12.
Yep.
And B12 is and can mess with gut function. And B12 is so responsible for really metabolism in a sense, because it really regulates how we manage our proteins, fats, and carbs. and energy, and depression is a huge deal when we have symptoms of hormone imbalance for a gazillion reasons, and B12 can really help to light up that brain and pull us out of that. But if we're kind of stuck in the low B12 place, we're just not going to feel well, and our metabolism is not going to be right. And same thing with iron. Iron is one of those nutrients. A lot of them are like this, where it has to be in just that perfect right place. But again, that's another blood test that is really never run, and it's ferritin.
Right. Yeah, it's not run often, and it's not run completely. Yeah.
So you can run, iron, right? But that's not going to give you the picture that you really need to see. Right. Ferritin is much more important, and women tend to feel better, closer to 100. And between 50 and 100 is optimal. And even if you're not menstruating, a lot of times your ferritin levels will be just too low. And, iron transports oxygen.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's crazy huge. So anyway, all these things. And of course,
this goes back to, your point, I think it was number 3 with which is about nutrients. Now, some of these you end up separating out into their own section, but it kind of, just for everyone listening, kind of goes back and forth, because without these key nutrients, overall, other systems are not going to function properly. So even though Robin's separating them out, a lot of them do come back to that point number 3.
You are just right. Thanks for catching that. Because when I look at those anemias, of course, I'm thinking blood work, right? Because I can tell on blood work. So I'm, thinking about the lab work and what can we glean from that. But you have to have the complete panel run. I mean, women throw their blood work at me all the time, and I'm like, I can't tell anything from this. You had 5 things run.
Right.
I you really can't. If you have the cholesterol panel run, cholesterol is not really a sign of much of anything, except that something else is out of whack, right? It's not your cholesterol's fault. And then underlying infections, right? So, chronic, I'm talking chronic. So not, not if you have a cold or the flu or something like that, where your white blood cells are super elevated. These are where your white blood cells are low, and you've got a bacterial or a viral infection going on that, really needs to be addressed. And, that kind of comes back to compromised digestion, and really making sure that your digestion is super strong, and that you have a good microbiome, or lots of fabulous bacteria in there that are supporting your health. And we talked about compromised liver function already. Got to have really healthy liver gallbladder function to metabolize everything. We have to love our livers, right? Just put your hand over your liver right below your diaphragm on the right side, and just give your liver some love, because it metabolizes everything that comes into your mouth, skin, lungs, everything. And then insulin resistance. It's insulin resistance is not really a root cause. So a lot of these are root causes. Insulin resistance is a little bit farther down the line, but we can definitely be genetically predisposed, right, to that. And unless we're really careful, it's easy to become insulin resistant, which means that we're just not getting blood sugar into our cells. So we're fat and tired. You can also be skinny with insulin resistance, and then you're just really anxious and have really fast gut motility and, some other issues, but you still have insulin resistance, and that kind of is at the base of a lot of issues.
I think there's a misnomer, or a misconception, I should say, to the public, that the only time that you can be insulin resistant is if you're overweight, which is not, it's not the case. But I think there is that little bit of disconnect with that.
And one of the biggest issues is that women, I hear all the time, I'm not insulin resistant. But it's because you don't know, right? It's because the doctor didn't run the right tests, or because for some reason you're in denial. It's a funny thing, because I would like to say that I'm not insulin resistant, but I tell you, some days if I overwork myself, if I, over exercise, if I don't get good sleep, I can just feel the next day I'm a little bit heavier, and I have to be more careful about what I eat. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. It's with all of us. It's a work in progress. There's no, I think some people believe, because we are healthcare providers, that, everything we do is always perfect and it's easy for us. It's not. We have to work just as hard as everybody else to keep everything going the way we need to.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm driven every day to figure things out. It's like, why is this happening? I need to know how to fix it.
Exactly.
So those are the top 10, right? Hormone deal breakers. And, I really encourage you. And I also want to say, what's going on between your ears, right? Our thoughts become things. So oftentimes I think how important it is to really balance your brain chemistry before you start on anything, because you really have to feel a little bit motivated. You have to have some energy to incorporate some pretty major changes. So yeah, the list is endless. So I'd like to invite you to think about, what are those hormone deal breakers for you? Like, what's keeping your hormones out of balance? And I know that you could pinpoint like 10 things right now for you that are going on that you're just not looking at, or you just want to pretend that you don't see.
Yeah, I think if we all become open and real with ourselves and really kind of take an outside look in, then we can absolutely be objective and see the areas that need improvement. And, for everyone listening, if you need that guidance in terms of trying to figure out, well, where do I start? This list of 10 is an easy place. You just start at the top and then just work your way down and start to ask yourself those questions so that you can better understand and see yourself. And at least that gives you a place to start.
Absolutely. And, I use the analogy of sailing, because our family sails, and I know that if we head from Santa Barbara, California over to Santa Cruz Island, and my husband puts me at the helm, I'm told to keep the heading on the compass at 185. I'm pretty sure that that's actually what it is, but don't try this at home without reading a chart first. And so I have to pay attention because the sailboat's going like this, right? And, as you're going along, it's easy for it to slip over to 190. And if I'm not paying attention for long enough, that 5 degrees is going to end us up at Santa Rosa Island and not Santa Cruz. It's only 5 degrees, right? So my point here is that you only have to change what you're doing by 5%. Just a little bit, like just add in, like Marc was saying, just add in that changing your food and when you eat it, right? That's huge. I mean, there are some keystone habits that if you change one thing, it'll end you up in a completely different health state.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. Is that, just out of curiosity, because I know we're going there next, is that part of your 9 secrets?
Absolutely.
5%?
So it's not part of the 9 secrets, but it's the underlying foundation of everything we teach.
Oh, good.
So it's called the 5% solution, and it's from really like a neurochemical, a neuroscience place that was developed. So we know that if we take those small steps over time, it equals huge results. Mm-hmm. And gosh, if you're like me, I want to know everything right now, and I want to try to do it all right now.
I love it.
And it's just not possible.
Yeah,
so I think when we understand that, because a lot of women with hormone imbalance, we're go-getters, we want to make things happen, and I think my husband's told me this more than once. I totally underestimate the time it's going to take to do things. I kind of overestimate my ability to make things happen. That's so funny. But anyway, so it can really sabotage you. So it kind of just takes the edge off. It lets your shoulders relax when you think about, oh my gosh, I just have to keep track of my food for a week. And just by doing that, I'll have more awareness. So we have these really cool things that are part of the program. So let me just whip through our 9 things. We've talked about a lot of them already. So, replacing missing nutrients is key to the program. Using food as medicine, like as Hippocrates talks about, it truly is medicine. It can harm us or it can heal us. I know in Chile now, I was just talking about this with my family this morning, they have actually, we learned this at the conference. Did we learn this? They banned characters on cereal boxes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And there are warning labels now that like Zucaritas or, Frosted Flakes, they're called Zucaritas, little sugars.
Yeah.
they have to put a warning label on the front of the boxes now, like, because they make us sick, right?
And it's made a huge difference in the outcomes of their healthcare outcomes and the health of the population at large. It's made a huge difference.
My son was saying how, that's just like getting way too involved, too many rules, that sort of thing. And I said, well, when the country's spending billions of dollars on sick people, trying to make them well, you kind of start to change your philosophy a little bit, right? It's bringing down the country.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need some of that here.
So then I said, it'll never happen here because of, big company money. And they reminded me that tobacco, right? That was big money. And we were able to do it with tobacco. So I'm holding out hope. And then using movement as medicine is number 3. So again, I thought over exercising was what I needed to do to lose that weight that I gained the previous day. And it's actually absolutely the opposite. And so we teach you like when you're ready for what and how you'll know. And it's one of the keys, right? It's super important. And the really nice thing about this program is that you actually learn how to do less. Right? We teach you how to sort of savor the simple things and that you don't have to do so much. Like women are all about being and receiving, and we totally learn the opposite. So, because pleasure's in there. So then number 4 is an awareness around cravings and what it means. I don't think that cravings are bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're information. Right. So we teach about what information they're giving you. And again, it's the 5% solution over helping to improve them. And just by what you eat can reduce cravings tremendously and getting sleep. Right. Support community. So studies show that you've got to be around your peeps. Right. And I have to say that that we're weird. I'm starting to admit this. We're just weird. Like we eat well, right? We take care of ourselves, and that's considered weird. I mean, I don't know what that's about. So your family, I mean, we have one gal in our community and her family they're just putting her down constantly. Like, why are you doing that? Why do you have to do that? Like, for some reason, everybody wants us to feel sick like they are, and they're pushing this really bad food on us. So you've got to be around people who have been where you want to go, or have been where you are and are where you want to go. And who believe in you, right? Who believe in you. And so that support community is really critical. So you just want to find your peeps.
Yeah, it's one of the most important pieces, because if you keep hearing from everybody else, like you said, and your family members, like, why are you doing that? This doesn't make sense. It's interesting. So when I was going through, all of my health challenges and changes and improvements, I lost a lot of weight, as many of us do. And I remember my mother saying to me, "You're too skinny. You look too skinny." And I think for everyone out there, I don't think I know, there is this misconception that being a little bit chubby or overweight is healthy. It comes from a period of time long ago when there wasn't enough. So when you were thin, you were malnourished. And so the only way they knew that you were healthy was when you were a little bit overweight and kind of chubby. That's not the case anymore, but there's still this disconnect between that. And so I just have this vivid memory of my mom saying I was too fat. I was like, I feel great. So, I'm not worried about my weight, but it's the same sort of thing. And I do think having the right community around you that can support you with those changes and challenges is essential.
Yeah, you're just right. And I grew up in a family where, they just kind of force fed me. It's like, here, have some more of this, and I'm like, well, no, I'm full. Oh, what, you don't like my cooking?
Right. My grandmother would say the same thing.
Oh no, I felt so terrible. So I would eat stuff I didn't want to eat just to, please my family. And so that's why I say we're weird, right? We're changing the paradigm.
Yeah.
So pretty soon people start looking at us and going, they are healthy people. I want some of that.
Good. I wait for that time.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. So then the next thing is, using sleep as medicine and why it's so important and why the British chose sleep as their most luxurious activity and why we here in the States are absolutely still crazy about, being so proud that we're so productive. In fact, I learned recently that a lot of the accidents that are caused are because, so like the Valdon, sorry, the Exxon Valdez oil spill was because of lack of sleep. Most car accidents are because people are too tired.
Yeah.
And it's because we pride ourselves on not needing much sleep, right? It's like, for some reason, it's a goal we have. I don't need much sleep. I only got 4 hours last night. So don't be proud of that anymore and just get the sleep you need, right? So we teach all about how to do that. And then managing stress and assessing your hormones actually from a symptom perspective, which I oftentimes think is more important, because how we feel is everything. Who cares what a lab test says, right?
Yeah.
A lab test is objective, so it can give us the why sometimes, but how you feel is ultimately the most important thing. And then testing, right? Test, don't guess. And looking at my little, here I can show my chart real quick. Accountability. So, being part of that support community, but also having someone that's going to ask how you're doing, and what's blocking your way and what is it that you need and how can you best be supported. Like, I think that's so critical.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And then pleasure. Oh my gosh. Finding pleasure in your life, right? I think that, I came from a family where, producing or doing was rewarded. Like, that was our love language. And so, I'm already driven like that. I didn't need that to be a family dynamic too. And so, accomplishing something was really highly rewarded. So I never got pleasure. In fact, I thought that was not cool, right? It was too indulgent or so, pleasure. I'm like, oh, what's that all about? Because pleasure can really help to balance our hormones. That's why women love to shop and get massages and all those things, because it really helps us to produce those great hormones. So those are kind of the 9 steps that are all part of our 5-element system.
That's awesome. What I really appreciate about this conversation is that it's really practical for everybody. Even if they just found coming back to your 5% solution, even if you took one thing from listening to this interview with Robin today and just said, okay, I'm going to start there, or I'm going to change that, you're already ahead of the game and you're moving in the right direction to make the necessary changes. So really, really appreciate the way you approach it and the practicality of it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we can get very technical and that's just right. Like, there's a lot of crazy, weird stuff going on underneath the surface. We could talk about hormones all day and what crazy things they're doing and, where we're dysfunctional in our bodies. But quite honestly, I don't really care about that. And I know that, our clients aren't going to care about that. We just want to know how to feel well, right? That's really the goal here. How to ovulate every month, right? How to have a menstrual cycle every month. This is how you do it. Like, we think it's going to be so hard, or we're just going to take a hormone pill and it's going to fix it. And that's a no. I can't tell you how many women in our community have tried IVF or Clomid or whatever, and they've been unsuccessful. And then they start following these 9 steps. And now all of a sudden, they're pregnant and they're holding a baby, and they're healthy and they feel well, and it creates a crazy good family dynamic, because now everybody is feeling well and we're making healthier babies.
Yeah, it's extremely important, not just for today, but for the future of your health and for the future of your family. So this was great, Robin. I really appreciate it. For everyone who's interested in more information on Robin's programs, there should be links below. If you're watching this on YouTube, then the links are in the description section. If you are on my blog, on my website and watching this, then it's all in the blog post. So click on those links and that will take you straight to the program that Robin's talking about and all the useful information as well. Robin, thank you again. For all of you who are tuning in. I appreciate your time and appreciate you checking out this interview. And hopefully you found one tip to help get you started on that 5% to make the necessary changes in your life. So if you like this video and this interview, then give us a thumbs up. Even better, share that with your friends, family, and community so that they can support you and you can all have a nice support network system together so that you're moving in the right direction. And then leave a comment for us below if you've got some questions on this. And then if you want more information about either my programs or any useful tips that I'm sharing with you, I do that every Friday in your inbox through my newsletter. So sign up for that at marksklar.com/newsletter. All right, everybody, until the next Fertility TV episode, we'll see you then. Bye. Are you looking for a fertility coach? Are you looking for someone to guide you with your personal needs one-on-one? Well, that can be me. If you want more information on that, check it out right here.